Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today on the podcast is a guest and friend who is someone who represents the very best, in my opinion, of what public service really can be. Although he'd never say it himself, that quiet competence, that relentless resilience, and truly a life defined by action rather than just talk, as we can sometimes see a lot of in the sector. Jim McParland joined West Midlands Fire Service back in 1995, and in 30 years since, he's built a career that stretched from the streets of Birmingham to some of the most devastated disaster zones on the planet. He was among the early members of UK Fire Service Search and Rescue Team, now thankfully rebranded as UK ISAR. He trained in Texas before there was even a UK course, to be honest with you. He responded to everything from Sparkle tornado that actually hit his own hometown to the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand, the 2023 earthquake in Turkey, and Cyclone Freddy in Malawi. I was actually lucky enough to meet and train alongside Jim multiple times during my own role with the UK International Search and Rescue, and he's exactly what you would hope to find in this profession. Absolute solid citizen, an incredible friend, incredible team player, and someone whose passion for the work is matched only by his just mountains of humility. He exemplifies the attitude and mindset the firefighting and rescue sector should really continue to aspire to. But Jim's story isn't just about the rescues. Honestly, it's about what happens afterward as well. The psychological toll, the marathons of miles that he ran to cope with, and the courage it took to finally ask for help. His honesty about trauma and recovery has helped reshape how technical rescue teams talk about mental health, even today. Along the way, he's led humanitarian projects in Romania, Pakistan, Tanzania. He's taught rescue techniques across the world and mentored the next generation of technical rescuers. He's a watch commander, an instructor, a well-being lead, and a man who's learned, sometimes the hard way, that resilience isn't about being an unbreakable, it's about refusing to stay broken. Jim's now retired from the Fire and Rescue Service and continues to serve in a different way, working in the private sector as a coach, trainer, instructor, mentor, sharing his wealth of experiences with teams and organizations that want to build the same kind of culture and mindset he's lived for decades. This is a long, in-depth conversation packed with takeaways. There's so much here, to be honest, that we decided to split it into two parts to give everyone, including myself, a chance to come up for air and really absorb Jim's incredible experiences. So settle in for part one and keep your eye out for part two later this week. I'll see you on the other side. You said something just before we started, and I'm going to kick us off there with a challenge because you said I'm not very clever. Yeah. I'm not really that intelligent. I had oh God, terrible with names. We had Anne Millington on recently, who's the chief of wherever she is, West Sussex, something like Kent, chief of Kent, chief executive of Kent. And she said a lot of firefighters say that. She's like, I sit at watch tables and stuff like that, and people say, "Oh well, look, Anne, with respect, I'm not really. I didn't go to university. I'm not really." And she was like, "That's BS." Because what you mean is you're not very academic. But I wanted to start us off with this because people that spend most of their career in places like urban search and rescue, international search and rescue, complex, multifaceted incidents with high stakes, lots of moving parts, lots of heavy, dangerous stuff going on, I think they're remarkably intelligent people. But it's how we measure intelligence, isn't it? So I wanted to kind of start us with that, but also start it at the point with you joined back in, 95?
95, yeah.
Did you think of yourself as an unintelligent, knuckle-dragging person then? And given all you've achieved, do you still think that's true?
Yes, and yes, okay. If I'm honest. I didn't even know I wanted to join the fire service. I was actually unemployed at the time and going through the job pages. Okay. I'd just come back. I'd been labouring over in Ireland and came back and was looking for a job, and I saw the fire service, and the advert said no qualifications required, which I left school without any qualifications whatsoever. So it suited me, but it planted a seed. It took me 2.5 years to get in because it was such a long process that I've really just focused on it, and I've committed my whole life to joining the fire service. It's just what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I think the second part, yeah, I'd say, yeah, I think I went through the whole of my career, I think, by keeping it but really, really simple. And I think probably the thing
Yeah, but
about that is,
isn't there a certain amount of intelligence as well that is
yeah,
required to see the simplicity in things? Because,
uh,
like, when total transparency, I spoke to a few of our mutual friends before I had a conversation with you today, and I was like, give me some brain board, bounce some ideas off me. What do you think of when you think of Jim? And they were like, really switched on bloke, really hard worker. They came out with some of these generic
yeah,
terms, but compliments.
yeah,
They're like safe pair of hands was one of them, but like really switched on and hard working.
mm,
Certainly really switched on requires. I always think of comedians. Like, if
yeah,
you ever hear a comedian on a podcast, they're really intelligent, and it
yeah,
requires
absolutely.
that really quick thinking to
Mm,
deal with. They're on a stage, they're getting hit with different things. Feedback, if you will, like people shouting at them from the crowd, and they've got to think on their feet. And I relate that type of intelligence to
yeah,
great firefighters, great operators, because
mhm,
you've got to have that. I think academic is more about, I have a really good memory recall and I
yeah,
can assimilate a lot of information and then parrot it back to you. And that's not to say they are not also intelligent, but academic people aren't necessarily. We've seen a lot of people come into our sector through either direct entry or other avenues who are really academic, but struggle
mhm,
a little bit more in sometimes these fast moving environments. Whereas someone like you who self identifies as not being intelligent
yeah.
seems to. So, like, do you know what I mean? Help me math
Do you
that
know?
math.
I think a really good example of that for me is I've done rope rescue for
Mhm,
well over 20 years. I've really loved it. Operationally, I've taught it.
mhm,
I was at the technical rescue unit. Been in charge of some really big rope rescue jobs. And the true genius with rope rescue is to make it simple.
mhm,
And we always train for the worst possible scenario. We make rope rescue training as complex as we can.
mhm,
We apply all these really in-depth,
mhm,
really tricky situations, and yet all the operational incidents I've been to, the true genius is to make that simple and go,
mhm,
yeah, we could do a Tyrolean, we could do something highly complex over there, but if it's suitable and we can move the casualty over there, it's
mhm.
a simple lower, a simple
Yeah.
raise, and we will just make it really simple. And it's,
Well, I appreciate that you do, because I've been on some rope teams that don't do that, and sometimes you get some performative points from being the one that comes up with the
yeah,
remarkably complex one.
yeah,
And then you've got, a couple of people in the team, me usually being one of them, who's like, oh, I can't remember which one that is. We haven't trained that in like
yeah,
7 months. Can't we just do
yeah,
a nine
easy
to
way of
one
doing
with a
this.
lower or something
Yeah,
like that? I'm like, why? I'm not
you know,
sure. You know what I
I
mean?
think
That you bring in human behavior and human error more and more and
absolutely,
more. You've set up a
yeah,
really, really complex thing that's fantastic, and the person goes over the edge eventually, and they've forgot to clip into the right line. I saw someone go over the edge a little while ago, and
yeah,
they'd clip themselves onto the casualty harness that they were going to go down to, and they'd lock themselves into that, and that casualty harness
mhm,
was on its own two to one, but they hadn't clipped into their own system, which wouldn't have been too much of a problem. They wouldn't have fallen straight away, but they'd have got down there and found it quite difficult, and or just had to come back and go again, because they were going to. It was a different system that we were trying to achieve, and you end up forgetting the simple bits because you get
absolutely.
too complex. You know
Too
what I
much, too
mean?
many moving parts. Yeah, there's too
Too
much
many
going
moving
on,
parts. Yeah.
and I think
Do you
that
think? Do you think rope is the most dangerous thing we do? I think it is.
I think we make
That
it.
and water rescue. Water
Water
rescue is
rescue
scary.
is was always been there's so many unpredictables in water rescue. I think
Mother
rope
Nature's
rescue
scary. Yeah.
you can control everything in rope rescue. You can make it super safe, and I've heard debriefs and conversations about how they can make it safer, and actually only making it a small percentage safer and having a big argument over it. It was actually pretty safe anyway. But I think water rescue definitely there's so much you
Mm.
have to be prepared for it to go wrong. Basically, I think the trick with water rescue is knowing what happens when it does go wrong because it happens really quickly. And so
The
you've
thing with
got
rope
that.
is you can't switch gravity off.
There's no
Do
training
you know what I
gravity.
mean?
That's right.
There's no training gravity. Yeah, I'm a bit like, and also you start to become reliant on more members of the team when there are,
Yeah.
more complex incidents, and those people are controlling your lines. Depending on what sort of system you're doing, you can be sort of standalone with your own fail-safe system. But most of the time, you're relying on a couple of team members operating with you, and sometimes you should do a full check yourself, but you're probably not going to be top man if you're the one going over. So someone else is checking your system for you. Whereas in fire behaviour, a lot of things can go wrong. I get it,
absolutely.
But I kind of have a little bit. I'm probably a little bit too much of a risk appetite. I've probably got a little bit of ego, maybe a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I run a podcast. But I'm like, I feel like no matter what situation I get into, it's probably my fault if I've gotten a bit out of place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like I came in with something that's attached to the fire engine. So I should really, most of the time, that's not me throwing shade on people that we've lost in fires and all that jazz. But it's just me going, I feel more comfortable in that environment. When I'm going over the edge, there's always that moment where you go, look, sorry, I know, just let me have a look at you. Just check that one more time.
Yeah.
Just let me see you do it. Yeah.
It's very,
okay.
very
just
real
test
looking,
that system. It's very real, and I
very
can't
real looking
switch
down
it
from
off.
the top. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you've done stuff way beyond any of my sort of.
Yeah.
I'm very much playing with it. But you did rope rescue right from your first station, didn't you? Because when you started Northfield, was it? You started West Bromwich.
Northfield. I've done 8 years at Northfield.
This episode is brought to you in partnership with Godiva Limited. Godiva is one of the world's leading providers of specialist equipment for emergency services market. Godiva produces a comprehensive range of fire pumps, including vehicle-mounted, portable, and their cutting-edge integrated total water flow control system, SAMFlows. I've been using Godiva my entire career as a reliable pump on the fire ground. It is such a crucial element of a successful firefighting team that you want to empower your crews with the very best, reliable, quality product. Reach out to our partners by checking the notes in the podcast. Now back to the show.
And then I actually moved across to West Brom for the rope rescue. So I wanted to be on the rope rescue teams. That was something that I was really, invested in and enjoyed. So I went there, and then that was before the technical rescue unit got set up. So I was doing it. This was back in the early, 2000s, around then.
What did the world of urban search and rescue look like in UK Fire and Rescue Service back then? Because this is even before UCFSART and everything else. I mean, that could do with a fucking rebrand from the get-go. That never rolled off the tongue, did it? That was great group of individuals, but I think the branding missed the target on that one.
Do you know, I think I joined UCFSART in 2003. It was something I knew I wanted to join. From when I first started finding out about the fire service, I just knew I wanted to join the ISAR. I'm going to call it the ISAR team now because it's so much easier. And sort of committed everything in my first, my early years in the fire service. I'd done everything I could do to get into the ISAR team. And it was, back then they were real keen, enthusiastic sort of amateurs, but they were so professional as amateurs. There's the exercises we had. There were lots of teams from across the country, all with different kit, all with different uniform. But the most important thing is they had the right people. It was the right mentality. So despite all the procedures and everything that it's a massive professional outfit today. But back then it just had the right people with the right attitude. And even we did work with other teams from other countries, and there was something stand out about the UK team, and it was that attitude. We're gonna go at this. We're gonna go at it hard for 8 hours, then we're gonna eat a cold ration pack, have a wash in a hydrant, and then go at it again.
There's pros and cons to the size that it's gotten to. As things get bigger, they get more funding, they get more resource, they ideally become more, professionalized. And I will say ISAR has done that as well. Even again, my limited experience, I was in it for a period of time, met a load of teams, did a few international training stuff and all that. So I think that's where we first met, wasn't it?
That's right.
However, there is a benefit to things being small. There is a big benefit to things being small. There is some perceived negatives as well. Like some people used to have the opinion, and I still think it's the case in some places, these are my words, not yours. Nepotism versus meritocracy.
Yeah.
So back in its origins, obviously I wasn't anything to do with anything back then. I was a babby. But it was a group of individuals, like I'm trying to paraphrase your words here, who were good eggs. That was used to be the thing that we said when we were doing the sort of selection training. You're looking for a good egg. And you wanted them to have the right sort of values. You wanted them to be a team player, first and foremost. You wanted them to be skilled, but really you wanted more of a mindset than a skill set, because you could train a skill set, couldn't train a mindset.
Attitude's more important,
Attitude's way more important than the fucking letters after your name or your qualifications or any of that BS. Yeah. But with that, brought a perceived nepotism, because, well, I could come to you if you were in charge of the team and be like, I've got all my qualifications, Jim. What do I need to be on the team? I think, I could bring a lot to it and all this sort of stuff. But I'm a bit of a dickhead. I'm always dodging. I've not got a great sickness record. My team don't like me. Everyone knows I don't really work that, but I've got my qualifications, Jim. Nothing in the policy says I can't go for it. And back then you were almost given a bit more free rein to go, well, I'll tell you what, mate, you join us for some training and we'll sort of assess you and we'll give you some feedback, see how you work with the team we've already got. But people might feel like, although this is the old boys club, this is the job for my mates, all that sort of jobs for the boys. What was your experience of that? Not naming any names or any particular services or anything like that, Jazz, you know what I mean? But like, do you think that was ever the case? Do you think a little bit still exists? Or
I think you'll never get away from being accused of that. Anyway, that's always going to be there, and it's normally people who sit outside the organisation, and it's people that have been unsuccessful. Yeah. I was originally told. I think I told all my watch members I really want to join the ISAR team. I was told it's a closed group. It's an old boys network. You've got to have been in the military. You've got to be one of the in crowd. No, I was never in the military, and I didn't know any of them. I was a complete newbie when I went through the selection that they put on, and I came top. I got in, got through it. I think to everyone's surprise. And I think we've run our own selection because our team is it's a command support team, so it's a bit different from an urban search and rescue team, and we've tailored our selection around the role. So it's around command support practices, the type of work that they'll be doing, and I think we've over the years we pushed it to the nth degree to ensure that it's open. It's completely fair. We've done everything we can to avoid these accusations, but we still get it. We still get people saying, "Oh, yeah, you only picked that person for so and so reason," and so it's I've found you can only do so much, and then after a while, you've just got to let that wash over you. Really,
I think it is different depending on the specialism of the team. So the organisation that I was part of when I was in the ISAR team didn't have a particular specialism. We just we were tool operators, and a few people had chainsaw qual, or they were most of us were just breakers and breachers. But there's a few people that were good at shoring, a few that were rope, a few that were chainsaw and all that sort of stuff. But I always used to think that we did need some really good knuckle draggers. You just need, because when we get to a lot of incidents, even for you guys, as well, if you can't carry it, you can't take it with you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be able to move with it. So fitness was a big element of it.
Absolutely.
And there wasn't, Scotland have a different fitness test for their ISAR team, I believe. I'm not sure if it's in policy or not. But a lot of places, there's no specialist. You have to pass the selection, which is fairly arduous 3 or 4 day thing. But once you're in, I did, total transparency, and people will hate me for saying this, sometimes I would look around at members of the team and go, look, we don't need somebody with all those qualifications. What we need is someone that's fit, does as they're told, is happy to help out. There's no rank in ISAR and all that sort of jazz. But they need to just be able to work on a collapse for 6 hours, and just drag stuff around and do stuff. And And sometimes I didn't always see those people as the ones that were selected for the teams. And I
Yeah.
would go, I'm not sure we've sent the most effective team. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
people were bad. Doesn't mean people were
Yeah.
not skilled. It just means what do we need? Like for your
Mhm.
team, you needed people that were, good at operating with multiple sort of spans of control. They were very admin focused. They're great timekeepers, great personal discipline about handovers, getting to their handover on time. They had to be IT literate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas other teams, it was like, I need you to be able to work hard, not moan about where you're sleeping or when you're eating or all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's different skills for different things. And
Absolutely.
sometimes I would have a little bit of a frustration there where I would see people that I'm like, we don't need 10 great team. I mean, everyone in ISAR is pretty good team leader, whether or not they're actually a team leader in their role. Like they're
Yeah.
all happy to step up and lead. But I'm like, we don't need 10 more team leaders. We need a bunch of knuckle draggers on this one.
Absolutely.
When I look at the Turkey deployment or other places like that,
Hmm.
I just think you're just pulling out rubble and walking miles here.
Yeah.
So you needed those sorts of people. How did you balance that in your head? Did you, because you guys, like you said, you kept trying to get better, kept trying to get better,
Yeah.
push it. But if someone said, well, hang on a minute, Jim, I've
Hmm.
met the standard. What's this? I need to be better. I need to be better malarkey. Like,
Yeah.
I think you're actually just being a dick. I mean, I think you're just bullying me because I don't care
Yeah.
about it as much as you do or whatever. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you want people to keep being better,
Yeah.
but you compare yourself to high performing teams like the All Blacks or something. Their motto, I say it on the podcast all the time, was no dickheads. Do you know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
Yeah.
But we couldn't put that on the policy. You couldn't write that on the wall. But that's really what we meant.
And I think that the whole thing with our selection is that we're trying to be the world's best,
Yeah.
and so we put aside an awful lot. And if people will always come back, especially if they're unsuccessful, they will
Yeah.
always come back and it's our fault that they failed, or it's something that we're doing, and that immediately qualifies them as a dickhead
Yeah.
in my book. But that's not
1,000%.
the attitude that we have. That's we do expect, even for a command support team, we expected a high level of fitness. You're out with the team. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I'm a complete IT biff. I'm absolutely useless at admin. I'm useless. You had to talk me through getting switched on today. But there's a
Yeah, but
place. Yeah,
you're a very
there's a
willing
place for
learner.
me.
You're an
Yeah,
eternal student. You're happy to learn. You
right,
don't bring
I'll give
you've got
any.
a lot of humility.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
no, I don't. As long as someone who knows what they're doing tells me what to do,
Yeah.
I'll listen. But I mean, I was originally recruited for urban search and rescue, and then the team evolved into a command support team, which I wasn't very happy about because I was really happy with urban search and rescue. That was my, I loved it. That's my thing. But then there's a role for me as a complete knuckle dragging IT biff in the command support team.
Yeah.
Because you need people to go out. There's a command support in bed, goes out with the team, carries all the communications equipment. I was quite good at navigation. I was quite good at comms. I know urban search and rescue was my day job, so I was fully happy, with urban search and rescue. And again, just kept everything simple. My job as an in-bed is to know where we're going, how to get there, to know where we are at all times, know who's in the team, and stay in contact with the base of operations. And I kept that as, if I do those things as the command support in bed, that's my role. Do just the basics, but do them really well. Yeah. It's like, I've said this about rugby a lot as well. I said, to win a game of rugby, just recycle the ball, just do the basics and do it well. And again,
Get
it's
really good at the fundamentals.
yeah. There's a lot of admin. There's an ICMS sort of whole admin computerized system where you can fill out loads of forms in the field and send them off and get them back, and it's a great as an analysis tool. But it doesn't help us get that person out the ground any faster, And I tend to cut through a lot. There's important stuff in it that the risk assessments, the things to look at that you're doing naturally. But then there was an awful lot of admin and reports. I was like, I'll do that afterwards. Because at the moment that's not getting us there.
No,
but
1,000%.
it's and so we can. I think that's the beauty with ISAR is it's different from UK USAR, where
Hmm.
you've got the resources, you've probably got the one work site, and you've got
Hmm.
all the resources to fill all
Yeah,
those
there's
documents
loads
in.
of mods are going to turn up and drop next to you, and
Absolutely,
you've just got
you know,
masses of tools to play with.
and you need that level of coordination. But
Hmm.
you know, in my experiences in ISAR, it's like the gloves are off now. It's
Hmm.
it's big boys and girls rules. You know,
Well, I think
we've got
that's how some people I saw who were long experienced USAR members who come on
mm,
selection, sometimes they would struggle with that because
yeah,
they would go, oh well, I don't think that that log or that whatever is not rated to this, and we should be using a this. We should, and I'm like,
yeah,
I ain't got time for that shit. There isn't one. There isn't
yeah,
one. And they go, well, then we should wait because nothing's
yeah,
worth that level of risk. I'm like, okay, well then we're just going to skip this entire work site and move on to the next one. Oh, we actually also need
yeah,
this for that, and we haven't got the HRU with all of the heavy lifting gear on it. So what do you want to do? Skip this one as
yeah,
well?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
not going to show up really at
yeah,
any point, and it might do, but by the time that shows up and we've liaised that and negotiated that with local government. I remember speaking to some of the top team leaders, and they were saying, yeah, we're organising, a shipping container. It's going to get there 8 days after we arrive. And it might. Some of them just never got there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They got stuck, or they were months away. A mod on a shipping container somewhere that just it costs 20 something grand,
yeah,
to get this thing sent around the world. And it never really was helpful to us because it didn't get there when we needed it. Not always the case, but
yeah,
sometimes we'd be able to get things flown out with the team. But
yeah,
you've got to be willing to step outside of some of those originally recognized. That's not to say step outside to do things dangerously as such, but this is an imperfect system you're going to work with. No, it's not imperfect because people are rubbish or because they've got low
yeah,
standards. It's because that is the name of the game,
absolutely,
really. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
How did you balance that? Because, like you said, in your day-to-day life, you
mm,
were. Well, I tell you what, I don't want to make any assumptions of the listener because we have people listen. A, from
yeah.
all over the world. B, from brand new recruit to retired person. What is urban search and rescue in its broadest sense? When did it get brought in? Because you joined back in '95, and talk to us a
Yeah.
little bit around the New Dimensions project and how that's evolved over the years. And because the original role of firefighting didn't include things like USAR. It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you, and we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. But here's the honest truth. It takes a colossal amount of time and work to keep the podcast going. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. Now, by joining this, you'll not only support the future of the podcast, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Now, if you've ever wanted to meet a member of the podcast, buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, and you think anything you've ever listened to on the podcast has been worth £3, that's basically what we're asking you for. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, instant debriefs, and so much more. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes.
No, that's right. Yeah. So it really, the whole New Dimensions project came after 9/11 back then, and we had a number of brigades in the UK that all had different equipment, different practices, different training, different standards. They're all looking after themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the government looked at 9/11 and said, if there was a massive incident like that, could all the brigades work together to resolve it? We had no urban search and rescue capability at all. We had no knowledge of it. And it really started from there. And the New Dimensions project, it's set up so that there's 20 odd brigades across the country are all trained to the same standard with the same equipment, with the same personnel, all with the same sort of methodology of how to get someone out from a collapsed building. So it was all standardized, and so that's how.
But we never
originally
expected
started.
collapse on that level, did we? Because we didn't really have a USAR capability, or we didn't train our firefighters the same as people around the world because we weren't really exposed to as many natural disasters. But it's when terrorism started to enter the fold,
Yeah,
and we went, well, what if
Yeah.
there was a massive attack, e.g., a plane flying into something, or a sort of bomb in a building somewhere, a large government building or a large area of like the Manchester Arena, and
Yeah.
what if the whole thing had collapsed and all this sort of stuff? And we go, could we have dealt with that? It was no longer operational discretion, if you will. It became a foreseeable risk, and we go, okay, this is a foreseeable risk now. How would we respond to it? And we go, well, with the best of intentions and with a lot of our just rescue kit, a lot of our adapted RTC kit, and hopefully some really good joiners. Cool. We do some.
We'll work it out.
We'll work it out. But they were like, that's not going to wash, really. So fair play to the government back then for making what was a tremendous investment in our USAR capabilities. So when that first started taking shape, I interrupted you, sorry, I just don't want to make assumptions of the listener. So that started taking flight. You were part of some of the capability and early trips of what a USAR team, because you went out to Romania, you went out to Texas. I never went to the Texas.
No.
Disaster City, is it?
Yeah, that's the place. I mean, that
looks like an absolute fucking wicked firefighter playground. Talk to us about some of those early trips and what that looked like, how formal or informal it was, and kind of how that helped shape your perspective on what's possible.
Well, I think the Romania, you mentioned Romania. I think I'd done that in my first year. I went over, there was a Romania with Aid project that had been running a few years before I joined, of builders and handymen, and just anyone who was willing would go and work on the orphanages over in Bucharest. It was after the Challenge Annika started it. And the situation over there was terrible at the time. It was heartbreaking.
This wasn't part of Ops Florian, was it?
That came out of the old Romanian with Aid thing.
I apologise. Okay.
Yeah. So Ops Florian was more training the firefighters, I believe, whereas this was actually carrying out building work. And we worked on a number of orphanages. And honestly, I think I met some of my heroes on those trips. Some, you say there's people you just want to aspire to be. And it was these guys that would just be in that horrible situation and just find a way to make it work. They didn't have.
Let's give some credit. Who were some of those people that you met and went, wow, you're an impressive individual?
No, not compared. There's three people that led the trip. Sean McMenamin, Phil Pitt, and Rudy Parks led the trips. And then Rudy Parks was in the ISAR team.
I think I know Rudy.
Yeah, you'd know Rudy. But these guys were just, again, so humble. So team orientated, but then just had that, we're going to get this job done. We're going to keep everyone together, motivated, and work at it. And I think that loads of people in that team, he really instilled on me how if you get the team together and you get them the right motivation, you get them in the right direction, it's amazing what can be done, if that makes sense. And I just don't, those trips they were really hard work, but I loved them, absolutely loved them.
So were these people given leave from their organisations, or was it all? Yeah. It was all volunteer. Take your own leave, wasn't it?
It was all
you weren't
volunteer.
seconded or attached to it.
Yeah. No, you had to fundraise yourself. And I think it started off with those trips. There's a bunch of people done their own trips as well. I think there's my main oppo, Sufi, ended up, we done over 20 trips together. He's done about 40 trips. He bought a house over there and got a couple of the orphans, using it as a halfway home to go. He's an amazing bloke. It's great. Me and him are building my extension at the moment, so it's just like going back 30 years between the pair of us old parts, swinging the lantern and telling old stories. So it's so that you do meet these people that are inspiring, and I do think that it was those Romania trips that really that started me off. Trying to keep up with them, really.
So when people were asking you about those trips and they're like, how do I get into something like this, Jim? How do I get invited on something like that? How do I get, released from this? Because I think a lot of people see some of the stuff that you do and a lot of others, and they think they're given preferential treatment by the service, but they don't
Yeah,
realise that this person is doing a lot of this just off their own
yeah.
back. And then some
That's it. You
people will
just
go, that's the bit that shifts where they're like, well, if you really wanted
yeah,
to do it, just do it. Like, you haven't got to ask
yeah.
anybody's permission as such.
Absolutely none. I think none of those trips or anything was ever handed out to anyone. You had to go looking for it.
Mm,
You have to go and look for it. You have to get your own time off. You have to do your own fundraising.
mm.
Um, you make your own way into those trips.
And there are a lot of firefighters that want everything for nothing.
Yeah,
There are a lot.
absolutely.
They're my
Yeah.
words, not yours. But there's a lot of lazy firefighters that sometimes feel a bit entitled.
Hmm.
And they expect that someone should bend over backwards and do everything for them.
Yeah.
But I always say to people, like, some of the random things that I get privileged to be invited to, it's never because I'm the best at it. It's usually just because you get lucky,
You
because you
you've done
put
it. Yeah.
yourself in enough places to
Yeah.
be. You've almost got to create enough surface area to let luck
Yeah.
stick to. Do you know what I mean? I put myself
Absolutely.
out there with no expectation. I went on that trip. I put my hand
Yeah.
in my own pocket and paid for my flight or my
Yeah.
train fare to get there.
Yeah.
And then someone said, "I tell you what, Pete, are you available in 6 months to come and do this?" And then I said,
Hmm.
"Yeah." And then maybe that one was partially funded or supported.
Yeah.
But you have to. I always say, give and forget, receive and remember. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, give your time, do that bit just off your own values. And then
Hmm.
if you get something back, great, but don't go with the
Yeah.
expectation of
Yeah.
reciprocity. Like, oh, Jim owes me now. No,
Yeah.
that's if you came in with that mindset, that's
Yeah.
the birth child of bitterness. That's when you're
Absolutely.
going to start being that person that goes,
Yeah.
oh, fucking, I'm not doing that. What's in it for me, sort of thing. But they're the people that get all the cool experiences. That's where all the cool
Yeah.
stories
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
from. I would say the fire service is boring for boring people.
Yeah.
The
It
fire
is what you
service can
make
be
it.
a
Yeah.
really fun place. Loads of
Yeah.
opportunities. And we can moan about today and go, it's not like it used to be and blah, blah,
Oh
blah.
yeah.
And I can go, well, I've been to Austria this year. I've been to the Netherlands. I've been to Germany. I've been to
Hmm.
here, there, and everywhere. Just because I
Right.
always say shy kids don't get sweets. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? If I'm like, Jim,
I like that. Yeah.
what value could I add to the project that you're
Hmm.
running that would be worth me coming along? I'm happy to pay,
Yeah.
but I want to sort of be part of that team and do it. What do you need? What is there anything I can help with? Whether it's just moving stuff or like doing whatever. Do you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that's how you get yourself. And some people might say, "Fuck off," that's
Yeah.
fine. And also,
Yeah.
I always mean
I'm
no
fine.
doesn't mean no forever. Sometimes it means no
No.
right now. I'm
Yeah.
like, actually, Pete, with this one's full, and we're only sending a small team, and we don't really want disaster tourists, or we don't want
Yeah.
people that are just coming for a jolly. But I tell you what, and some people just can't take those setbacks. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And they go, oh, you know what, ram it then. I'm never going for that again. I
Yeah.
went for it and I felt stupid and Jim
Yeah. Yeah.
embarrassed me. And like, no, you couldn't, there wasn't capacity to have you on
Yeah.
this specific trip. Do you know what I mean? You need to get over yourself.
Yeah, exactly, and that shows character, doesn't it? And that's a good someone that comes back and goes, right, fair enough, I understand, but
Yeah.
I'm coming back. I'll come back next year, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
already you're a foot ahead of everyone else with that
Mm.
kind of mindset and that attitude. And it is what you make it. The fire
Mm-hmm.
services, everything in the fire service is what you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And no one owes you. No one
No,
owes me anything. No one owes
no.
any of us anything. It's up
No.
to us to do it.
So when you had those early interactions with Romania and then some of the follow-up ones, I interrupted you about Texas. Take me back to Texas. What was that like?
Oh yeah, yeah. So that was when I originally joined the ISAR team. We didn't have the facility in the UK to teach urban search and rescue. It just
Mm.
wasn't at the fire service college. No one had it. So I think I went on one of the first Texas trips with the instructors that were going to be teaching it at Morton at the fire
Okay.
service college. And apparently it was a skill that we had in the UK that was learnt during the Blitz. They got a load of experience of digging people out from underground, under collapsed buildings. And then a lot of those instructors went over to the States, where they have natural disasters, where they have earthquakes, and taught them what they learned. And then we lost the skill in the UK over all those years. We had to go back over to the States to learn from their instructors how to do it. So it was completely in its infancy, I think, when we started.
So what did you actually look at when you were over in Texas? What did you take away from it? What sort of stuff did you pick up? What was involved in it? What was sort of the incidents that you practiced on? Because we say, oh, digging people out of collapsed structures. What had we forgotten that we then had to relearn?
But it was a whole skill set, a whole different way of looking at things. The Americans done it a lot differently to how we done it a few times, but they definitely they were very robust with their systems and how they detailed, all the practices. Their shoring gurus had it down, to perfection. They knew the strength of each nail and everything. They're very good at being very precise. But it was that.
What is shoring for people that don't know what it is?
Sure. So there's a skill with putting in place a structure to support part of a building that's unstable or has got a building element missing. So it can be done with metal, where you have Paratech, which is like these massive heavy duty acro props. Basically, is it's good. It's a big metal strut that you can put up in place and take the weight of the floor part of a building. But then you can build it out of timber as well. You can build it to fit any sort of shape or missing element, just by cutting construction grade timber and nailing it together in the most.
So this is effectively about capturing a load, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're trying to capture a load so you can proceed safely underneath it. If people think of digging tunnels back in the war, when you see in old movies, they were shoring as they went effectively, where they're trying to stop a tunnel collapse. So they would just be doing classic T-spot shores and things like that and moving through a tunnel. We have that in a collapsed structure. There might be a floor that's still supported and it's got rebar, but it's had a partial collapse. And we want to just capture that floor so we can remove all the rubble underneath it and break our way into a pocket where there's been survivability, or we've had some tapping or some response, or we've used a snake eye and we've seen something or heard something, and we want to get there without the thing falling down on top of us. So we've got, shores that we can put in place, metal ones, but they're not sacrificial, and we've only got so many of them.
Yeah.
So we'll put them in place as like a temporary measure, then we'll measure it up when it's safe to now approach it, and then we'll put some additional shores in place, and then we'll take that one out and just proceed down this space or down this tunnel. Or if we're going to be working near something, if it's just partially leaning one way, you could put a raker in place or something like that and stop it falling onto your team whilst they work in that area. Is it just for the not lay person, but just like for the general public, when you see us putting together lots of wood an incident, and this isn't just wood that we've got from wherever, our mods will take, we've purchased a load of graded timber that allows us to use and put it up with a consistency. But equally with that, like, talk to us about some of the places that you've been where you just have to make do with whatever you've got. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you finger on the pulse, finger in the air, go, I think that will be strong enough?
Do you know, there's I've done the specialist shoring course quite early on, and it's very in depth, it's very precise, it's very good. I think sometimes it's great. I've used shoring in this country a number of times. In the technical rescue unit, it's been for like a car into a building. It's taken out part of a building, and then we'll be shoring not as part of a rescue. We're actually shoring to save the building. It's something that's done afterwards. A lot of times, certainly when we look at rescue work and when we look at the ISAR world, it's completely different. It takes a long time to set up this shore. You need a lot of resources, you need a lot of timber, and like I said, when you've got hundreds of potential work sites and limited resources, it's not really viable. You're not, and sometimes some of the rescues I've been involved in, it's taken a couple of hours of hard work to get that person out. It probably would have taken that long anyway to put the shore in, and committing a whole team into the the risk area to do it. So it's you could be, some of the buildings we've worked on, you could be there for a week and still not shore it up to a place where it's not going to come down on you.
Yeah.
So it is, there's a big real world sort of assessment that's got to be made.
But it was only maybe 10 years ago that we actually started getting like structural engineers on the ISAR team, wasn't it? Because in the UK, if you have an incident domestically, structural engineer will be one of the first people you ring. We go, you come and tell us if you think this building's going to fall down. If so, where? This is what we have. This is our intention. What needs to be put in place? I don't know what they get paid, but I don't know if that's like is that a national resilience asset, or do we just ring? You'll have done loads more of these than I will. Do we just ring a load? Have the council got one on the books that they just ring?
We can request them, so they'll be trained and they're on the National Asset Register. So those. So they're.
I bet they're on a pretty penny.
I'd say so. They know what they're on about. That's for sure. Yeah.
They sound confident.
They do. I like that, and I'll listen.
But so the options are: Shores could take a long time, or we could put in a structural monitoring device like a WASP or something. Yeah, and then just kind of eyeball it and try and make progress, but under the understanding that there's limited people in the workspace, and we're going to get out of there quickly if it goes bad.
Do you know? I think there's. You can put shoring in. Sometimes we put a bit of shoring in and we're using timber that we found on the work site. And really the reason we're doing it is because you can hear when load goes onto that timber. And so it's more, you're not going to hold up those 8 floors that are pancaked on top of each other, but you'll get an indication that they're moving and you'll see
it whispers before it screams, because timber tends to moan at you before it gives. And that might even only be 10 seconds, but it's worth listening to it.
And the way the shores are constructed, where you'll have one lying flat against the grain and a post going into it, movement will push that post into the header, as we call it, the one lying flat. So you can visibly see. Even if you don't hear it, you can see. Well, over the last hour, that's been pushed in. That wood's compressed. So that's telling me that this building is moving. It's live.
So you went over, did some of those Texas trips. I think there has been quite a few over the last sort of years. There has been, in my opinion, but you'll know far better than me, seems to be an increased frequency in kind of global disasters in the last 10 or 12 years. I think that has. Anyway, I don't know if you would agree or disagree with that statement. Given the increase in diversity of the firefighters' role in the UK Fire Service, and whether it's climate change or economical challenges or whatever it is, do you think we're keeping pace with the increase in scale and frequency of global disasters? Because the funding element that ISAR requires is tough. We've had the replenishment of some of the assets that were in the New Dimensions framework, but they kind of came up to was it a 15-year life cycle they had? What life cycle did they have? Was it 10 or 15?
I'm not sure. If I'm honest,
can't remember. But it was only a few years ago, wasn't it, that a few of them got replaced? It was like three or 4 years ago, where a bunch of them, like some of the big decontamination units, some of the USAR capabilities, some of the flooding capabilities, some places lost their boats. There was a few things that did and didn't get replenished, but it seems to be that we're on very much a high alert status with terrorism and stuff like that. When you do the international reaccreditations and revalidations, do you think we're keeping pace with the sort of frequency, complexity of some of the stuff that's happening around the world? This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
I think we're doing as best we can. I'll never say we've got enough funding,
We're not a
We're not.
superpower, are we? At the end of the
We
day,
could always.
uh,
We're not.
yeah,
No, we're
the
not.
money
But I think,
struggles in the UK fire service.
yeah, I think we're sort of resource poor. But in my experience, we've been our attitude, and sort of the quality of people that we have in the team always
Mm.
stands out. And it is that can-do attitude. We haven't got everything we want, but we'll do it. We'll find a way. We'll find a way of doing it. And I think that it really has. Mike's, I'm really proud to have been in the UK ISAR team. I think it's one of the things that we're world leaders in. And I
Okay.
think we've proved, and again, it's not me. I'm a knuckle dragger. I'm at the bottom of the food chain in the ISAR team.
Hmm.
But I think that we've proved over that we've had these UN accreditations, that we have every 5 years. We've had the highest scoring teams ever, ever recorded in that.
Hmm.
And talking to other teams as well, talking to other international teams, they're really in awe of the UK ISAR team. And I think it's something that we should really be proud of. I don't think a lot of people know what the UK ISAR do.
No, I think they
But
don't.
they don't,
Yeah.
and we're recognised. And all the experiences I've had, the training when they find out that the UK ISAR, it's like there's a bit of a standby. Oh,
Mm.
we need to listen to these people. And
Mm.
then the deployments I've had. I think the world just considers us as front runners.
Mm.
And so and that's, to me, I'd like, we've got to stand up to that. And that, that's
So,
us.
if you were in the National Fire Chiefs Council, you're in charge of the fire service. Well, I mean, the National Fire Chiefs Council isn't in charge of the fire service, but they certainly have a big influence into it. Or if you were the chief of, your old service, West Mids, or some of
Yeah.
the big hitters, Merseysides, some of the larger London brigades that have big ISAR and USAR capabilities. We've lost a lot of firefighters. Not as in died. Well, a few have died, but there's something like 11,000 less firefighters now than there was in 2010. Something like that. I saw some stats from the NFC. Phil Garrigan was talking about them not so long ago. And believe it or not, we're actually busier, which is, I think that's always hard to justify. Because you go to less fires, we don't think we're as busy. But we obviously go to a lot more road traffic collisions, AFAs, lots of less traditional things that the public think we do. We're doing a lot more of that sort of stuff. However, because we've got less people and because we've got less funding, you see a lot less things like secondments. You see a lot of the ISAR leadership team, my belief, if that's still the case, is they are on very long-term permanent secondments. There is a small team of people that just do that. A couple of those people are close to retirement. I'm worried that we're going to make these part-time roles because it relies on services agreeing to release these people. And if you don't make it, it's like, what are you optimizing for? If you don't make these things a priority and someone has to do it part-time, it's going to become a bit naff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people won't have the capability, not because they're not interested, not because they're not passionate. They just won't have the capability to do it. But like you said, if we don't scream from the rooftops about the value that it brings, the value that it adds to international aid around the world, how we are called upon to coach, advise, guide, train other sort of rescue teams around the world. What would you do if you had, a total utopia? Is this something we should still do? We're punching above our weight. We are a small country with a small fire and rescue service with a small budget. What should we be optimizing for?
I'd only ever look at it from my point of view and think, what I'd like to make the team, successful, really at knuckle dragging firefighter level.
Okay.
And my old team, I should say, the guys and girls that are in that team are, they do it for free. They do it without causing ripples, without causing attention, because they don't want to upset, budgetary issues, or they don't want to create any issues, that could look negatively on us. Put loads of their own time in, And then you have people that are going abroad to teach courses and to teach experts from all around the world. And these are guys and girls at firefighter level. You know, these are technicians in our
Paul,
job.
Courtney,
But then,
John, you know, a lot of people
yeah,
have gone around the world being great trainers in various roles.
you know, and they're not high ranking. They
No.
are boots on the ground type people. They
Mhm.
aren't chasing promotion. They're not ego driven, but they know what they're doing. You know, and the experience that we have, and I think we've kept. I'm quite hopeful about our team. I think, you know, we've got the right people in the right place, and they'll keep it going, and they'll keep that attitude going. And I think for me, it was always, it felt like we were battling for support, and we were, you know, trying to, and
Beg, borrow, and
the whole,
steal. Yeah.
yeah, you know, and I think if you let them free, you know, if you give them free rein,
Get out of the way. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. You know, they could do amazing things with the right support. They're doing amazing things without the support. With the support, you could absolutely, you know, really push the boundaries and be absolute world leaders.
So I want to get into some of the stuff that you have been privileged to do and kind of shine a light, not just on yourself, but some of the great teams that you're involved with. So 2005, the Spark Hill tornado, that was your first ISAR deployment, wasn't it? What was that?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, that was a tornado swept through, and it hit hundreds. I've forgotten how many houses now, but it hit a big area, a couple of square miles, and damaged something like 600 odd houses. And this was just after I joined the UK ISAR team. So
where was this?
In Spark Hill, which is inner city Birmingham, which is I was actually born in Spark Hill. So that's the area where I grew up. Yeah, so I had every inoculation known to man to go anywhere in the world, and I went just around the corner from my old block. Yeah.
Nice.
And so that was quite bizarre. To be fair, even my mum's car got crushed by a tree while she was in it. She was driving down the road. All the cars had stopped, and she was in a queue of traffic, and a tree went straight across the back of a car, crushed down. You know, the roof was crushed down to the rear seats. She was absolutely fine in the front. And it was one of the most bizarre. I think I was walking the dog at the time, and my pager went off. And I was like, right, this is it. I'm going somewhere tropical in the world, you know, somewhere exotic. And as I was running back home, my mum rang me. God rest the soul. And my mum is as stoic as you can get, unfazed completely. And she was just like, "Oh, Jim, you won't believe what happened. A trees just fell on the car." And I was like, "Mum, I'm just being deployed to somewhere in the world. You know, are you okay?"
I ain't got time for this.
All she said was like, "Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I was just on my way back from seeing Auntie so-and-so, and she was telling me about this." And I was like, Mum, I've got to go. Something important's happening.
Did you just have in your head that is just some branch has fallen on the back and scratched the car, or?
And I didn't even realise she was in the car at the time. And it wasn't until the next day, I think, I saw a photo, and I was like, "Mum, you had a near-death experience there, and you were telling me all about Auntie Pam's week." You know? So, but that was quite a bizarre to go in that, and I think all we done was just a big wide area assessment, you know, and we were going around checking buildings and making sure, doing quick searches and making sure no one was in there. So there wasn't actually much as far as urban search and rescue, other than a bit more coordination, you know, and assessments of potential sites that we might need to explore. So there wasn't. You had the Spark Hill deployment was just a shock, really. That.
So it wasn't long after that you started leading on the selection as well, was it?
Yeah. I think from the very next selection after I got in.
Okay. So is a bit of myths and half truths and all that sort of stuff. It is very rigorous, 4-day arduous conditions course. Give people as much of an insight as we can, because this used to be ran collectively. I mean, I don't know what originally, if they were all separate, but we used to run a national selection
Yeah,
was ran very, very well, in my
yeah,
personal opinion. You know, the Coniston sort of selection was
yeah,
great. I've been back there many times,
yeah,
either
yeah,
doing the selection, but also just with my family, like taking them around some of the areas because it's lovely, isn't
yeah,
it? It's really, really nice
yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
area. Tell people what it's kind of about. What was it like when you did it? How had it changed when
Yeah.
you started leading it in 2007? And kind of what we're trying to optimize for with the training.
I think I went through a selection. It was run up at Outreach in North Wales.
Okay.
It was run by the West Mids team and the Outreach instructors, who were
Hmm.
all ex-RAF mountain rescue type people.
Nice.
It was ace, and they're really switched on people that absolutely know their trade inside and
Yeah.
out. So they put us through it, and it was. I just remember it was hard. We didn't sleep for a couple of days. They had us doing loads of tasks that were impossible. I just loved it. I
Mm.
absolutely, at the end of it, I was actually gutted when it finished. I was really
Oh,
enjoying it. Um, and I think we started doing it a couple of years later, and we said we can run it ourselves.
okay.
And I wouldn't say we got it right at the start. Absolutely not. I think it developed. I think we've run about 5 or 6, probably more than that now. But it was really. I was quite proud of that as well. That was getting very good. We I think when the national selection, we worked with a lot of the people that were running the national selection. We'd have them come to us,
Hmm.
and they would help mark. They would independently assess the candidates, and we
Okay.
worked quite, and they were doing like you say, a fantastic job. They really were.
Mm.
We just felt that we wanted to base ours around the command support and make it
Okay.
specifically. It's not urban search and rescue that we're doing.
Hmm.
It's great that we have people who know urban search and rescue in it, but it's not limited. There's a number of people in the team that are absolutely pivotal that haven't got a clue what to do. With urban
Yeah.
search and rescue. They don't know, but they understand fully the command support system. And
Mm.
and we need those people in.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't have been we would have missed those if we sent them to just purely an urban search and rescue selection.
Mm.
So we sort of designed ours. It's really vigorous. I'm not apologising. I've fought loads of battles over the years to keep it vigorous.
Yeah.
And I've had people from the outside that were saying, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? This is too
Yeah, there's
hard."
people that thought it was a bit unreasonable, a bit
Yeah,
too difficult,
um,
especially
and
with
I,
some of the water elements.
yeah, and I think I was always able, or not me, myself, and the team leaders in our team, we were always able to relate it to real world experience.
Yeah.
This is how far you're going to be walking. This is the weight you're going to be carrying. These are the
Yeah.
hours. You're not going to sleep for 3 days,
Hmm.
absolutely guaranteed. You're going to be working in a small team. You can't get upset, frustrated, angry. You can't do these things. And it
Hmm.
was more, I think we argued the point saying it's actually safer for the people in the team. It's more considerate for the candidates to say, look,
Hmm.
we're going to put you through it because the next time you go through it, it could be for real. It
Yeah.
could be, we could damage someone,
Hmm.
irreversibly if we select the
Hmm.
wrong person that can't cope with that type of workload, with those
Yeah.
type of stresses, with the wrong
And then
attitude.
they
We could,
become a risk to the rest of the team as well because we can't
like,
just call in overtime. You can't just
absolutely,
go and sit on the truck
yeah,
and we'll get somebody else. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
yeah,
You're with us. You then just become
yeah.
a burden to the team, haven't you?
You could ruin the whole UK response. It's
Hmm.
too dangerous not to, and I think that was my whole argument was that we can't play at this. We've got to expose them to
Hmm.
to to this sort of stress, this type of frustration. We've got to look for people who can gel in a team and can support each other. There's no egos again
No.
in ISAR. There's no competition. We're all going to, we're going to be the highest performing team collectively and make sure that everyone's happy and everyone's sorted and everyone's looking out for each other. To me, that's the best, the best way to work as a team in that
So when
environment.
did you start working with the Great Manchester team? Because I was really Martin never went up into the national team. It was a while since I've spoken to him. Did he
Yeah.
ever step into a national role?
No, I think he did for a little bit.
I
But
think that was so annoying because I think Martin's great.
No,
I think he's such
a legend.
fantastic bloke, fantastic
He was.
operator.
Yeah.
I don't know why he never managed to. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that conversation, but yeah, I've just so much respect for the bloke. He's just so good. I think he's a really lovely guy, really, really hardworking, very emotionally intelligent leader.
Yeah.
And they put on, and again, this is not just Martin. I'm failing to remember all the other people that were involved in this. There's a lot of people, but he used to kind of spearhead the national selection stuff, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you start working with them? MSA are supporting us on today's podcast, and I chose to partner with them because I've been wearing this stuff for nearly 20 years, and they are the global leader in development, manufacture, and supply of incredible, safe products that really protect people, not just our communities out there, but also first responders, most importantly, all over the world. Get yourself over to MSA and have a look at it. The high-performance protective clothing for emergency services responders. They also partner with us on the UK Pink Firefighters. It's because we love them. The helmets with the reflective visor, the F1XF, absolutely epic helmet. And not forgetting how they improve firefighter safety through their connectivity in the connected firefighter platform. MSA are always pushing the envelope, and it's a real privilege to be able to continue to grow our partnership together. So whether it's your PPE, your bunker gear, your helmets, your SCBA, your thermal imaging, your Luna, or your portable gas detection, both of us know that this equipment needs to work. It needs to be high quality, reliable, and dependable in the moment. And that's why I use MSA, because they know what's at stake.
So we worked with them on our selection. They came to us.
Okay.
And assisted in running our selection for a couple of, I think for 2 or 3, actually. So they'd come down. We all run ours in Kinver, which is nice because that's where I live. So that's nice.
What a beautiful...
It's
Kimber
place.
Scout Camp.
Yeah, that's where we do national exercises.
What's the background on that?
Well,
was that donated by some local land owners or something like that? Because it is a big scout camp. But it's massive. The land it covers is massive, and it's got those old caves in it as well, where we stay overnight. The cottages. Can you rent them cottages?
What the ones in the caves? I think it's all part
but the ones certainly where like there's a main camp where like reception is, and then there's a few nice lodges
the big
as well.
Log cabins. Yeah.
I wonder if public can rent them.
I think you can. Yeah, you can rent. We've always done training.
They're beautiful.
They are. So
I'd love to go back there.
It goes back to the start of scouting, and I think that area there was a family that owned all of Kimber Edge, and they donated it to the National Trust and donated that.
That's never going to happen again, is it?
Not really.
That's never going to happen again. You know what I mean?
No.
That sort of thing. You've got to protect that, because once you lose it, there's no one's ever going to donate such a body of land again.
You know, there was a great attitude, wasn't there, and a great pride, and they looked after the country and they looked after each other.
And one of the few places where there's a lot of big open land that you can put a boo up. You can put a good boo up, and there's lots of things nearby where you can.
Ton of sites that you can.
There's a ton of sites. You can do rope rescue scenarios. They've actually got dedicated towers if you want to do rope rescue on there.
Yeah,
they give you a lot of. As long as it's agreed, like you can do a lot of shoring, and you can do a lot of felling of trees and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
It's a very unique site.
It is.
Very unique site.
So it was great. We've historically we've won a lot of training. The UK ISAR team for West Mids. You know, it's where we go and meet and do a load of training there. And then it became where we've run our selection for the last 20 years.
I think there's nothing better than campfire, because they've got some of the really, really, really big, and these are common if anybody's, but if you've never been to one, if you weren't in Scouts as a kid, I was in Beavers, Cubs and Scouts. My dad was a Scout leader, and going to those sites where there's a dedicated, there's 10, 15 long benches, massive fire pit in the middle, and you're doing your end of day debriefs.
Yeah,
that is utopia.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? You've worked really hard for a couple of days. You're ball bagged, and you're just eating food, exchanging stories, having a drink. The dogs are out and about or something, and you're just like, fuck me, it does not get any better than this. This is
Yeah,
obviously our families aren't there and whatever, but I'm just saying
yeah.
within the fire service, they're the things you remember, aren't they?
And you don't get anything out of being in the ISR team, and
No, you
you've
don't get
got to
paid
protect.
extra. You don't get anything.
You don't get thanks, you don't get paid extra, you get nothing. But you've got to protect those moments, and we've all worked hard. Right now, and I love that campfire. Let's everyone sit down, relax, and be with. And it was my family. As much as I love, I'm a very big family man. I love my family. They're the ace, but I just felt at home with my family, sitting around that campfire with people from all across the country, old friends, and
I think my first or second one was when Paul retired. That was either my first or second training session there. That felt like quite a pivotal changing of the guard.
Yeah, I think
moment.
It was, and there's some big characters leaving ISAR.
And big characters, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Physically and metaphorically.
Yeah. And there's nothing better again. That's another moment. Oh yeah, that's how I want, retirement is sat around a campfire having a beer under the stars. We used to do this. This was our career, and let's finish it off here. That's that's quite special.
Massive moment, stuff like that. So when you had, jump forward a little bit. So we've done some of the international work, spoke about the training courses and the selection courses. You started doing some of the capability work. So UKISR do a lot of capability, capacity building trips and stuff like that. You did some in Pakistan, I think. You've done. Talk to me about what they are, why we do them, and what the benefit is maybe for the UK government firstly, and then what the benefit is for teams that get a chance to go on these.
Well, I think the Pakistan one came shortly after the Pakistan earthquake, and it was led by Swedish rescue services, where they were looking at training specialist teams in Pakistan, basically. And I think they didn't have rope rescue instructors. So they requested a couple of us from the UK. It was rope rescue and shoring. So on the very first one, there's myself and Rob Norman went to teach rope rescue.
Rob's a lovely bloke.
Good, mate, big cuddly Rob.
We
had a great time, me and him did.
Yeah.
And then there's John Mackay and Neil Graham went and taught shoring. Again, what a team! Again, what a brilliant team! But we had to go. The risk assessment, because this was 2007, 2008, when there was a lot of problems going on over there. There's people getting kidnapped and there's all sorts of horrible things going on. The risk assessment said that we couldn't go in UK uniform. We had to get issued a complete Swedish set of uniform and pretend to be Swedish the whole time.
Okay. So lots of cultural appropriation and stereotyping.
Yeah.
How do you speak? Just say hurdy-gurdy. Just they'll believe it. It's fine.
It's very similar to the Brummie accent, I think.
Okay.
It was when I was doing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a great trip. Just learned loads, and it's working with other people. I think what I found out is the firefighters in Pakistan are exactly the same as firefighters over here. There was just a commonality amongst us. It didn't take long for us to gel. So it was and it was interesting. They come from a different background, a different viewpoint, but there's still links. We can still understand each other. We still after doing the same job, and we got there. And that was, and it's great for, I think, great experience for the UK ISAR team just to go to those places. You don't get a chance to go to there. The whole
that gives a great introduction to the safety and security side of it, doesn't it? Because I think that's something that gets skipped over, and I hadn't really thought about it before our conversation. But let's go there for a minute. We talk about sacrificial wallets and having things in different pockets, never giving your passport away, having copies of your passport, no loan working. Some of that is a complete mind meld for some people because we're used to like, we're a fire service, park the truck wherever I like. Everyone listens to me. I tell them what to do. And people that, so when you deploy an incident in the UK, you're not a dick, but you need to assert control over this situation.
Yeah.
Because it's just a little bit of chaos. People are looking to you. You need to create a big bubble of safety. And in order to do that, you need to kind of give commands to the members of the public, tell them what to do, tell them what you need them to do, get out of the way, do this, do that, don't come here, stand there, all this sort of jazz. Because we need to create a bit of rigidity around this situation of chaos. But when you go to other countries, you are not in charge.
Absolutely not. No.
You are not in charge. You can offer support if it's safe for us to do so, and if we think everyone's not going to nick our stuff or take our personnel. But you can't just, bulldoze your way in there and we're the fire service, shut up and sit down, listen to us. Like, what were the early evolutions of that from like when you first started getting some safety and security training to maybe the levels that it was at when you finished?
Oh, we had a ton of briefs about going into Pakistan because it was very dicey, and including where you stay, including your routes to and from, and always picking different routes, and then even how we had to got into a minibus behind a gate, behind a fenced yard, and we'd go out and we'd take different routes, and you're just on your guard the whole time because it's as much as we had a load of friends over there, there's still lots of unfriendly people there that would wish to do you harm. And you have to factor that into everything, everything that you do, everywhere you go, the places, the training sites. Where's your quick exit route? What happens if it goes wrong? What happens if you spot something? If you're being followed, it all factors in. You've got to look after yourself, front and foremost.
I would even say to me when they were like, you're choosing locations, changing the room when you get there, little things like that, choosing the room at an end of a corridor, little things like this. And it's stuff you just never think about.
Never think about, but you do think if someone comes in that front door, which way are you getting out? And that's what I think
which way are you getting out?
I think we moved accommodation a couple of times, and it's an assessment you do, that you do when you go into a new place. Right, this is my room. That's the way in. That's the way. That's a way out. That's a different way out. That's another way out. If it does happen, that's I'm grabbing my passport and going that way, and taking Rob with me. Rob's going to carry me actually.
But no, that's the whole. And there has been some dicey moments. Different team members that have found themselves in some very difficult situations.
Yeah.
And that's why I just think it's important to shine a light on it, because even for people traveling alone that aren't part of the UK Fire and Rescue Service, I think the proficiency of a general member of the public has gone down.
Absolutely,
in my personal opinion. You obviously sound like you agree. We don't seem to be as street smart and as savvy anymore.
Which
is crazy because we've got more exposure to stuff.
Yeah.
Like we see more stuff happening all around the world because there wasn't social media when we were young.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You couldn't see everything happening around the world. So we've got exposed to much more risk. As in you can see people that get abducted, people that get attacked in the street. But some people just seem to be woefully incapable of being aware of the situations they're putting themselves in and the risks they're exposing themselves to. Why do you think that is? I mean, you've got a family. Do you know what I mean? Why? Why is that happening? I've got children.
Yeah, well, I don't know why. I think people get a bit more focused onto the phone and into their own lives, a bit more insular. I've always believed. I grew up in a very rough area in Sparkhill. It was you had to keep your eyes out. I know, and I think I've just always believed that victims do choose themselves. You should be able to.
You're walking around like a volunteer victim, aren't you?
You know, and you don't make yourself. You don't stand out. You don't give anyone a reason to attack you. You don't carry. Outwardly show value or a reason to be attacked or to be robbed, or you just keep quiet, keep in the background.
People that say, you know what, that's wrong though, Jim. I should be able to walk as I like in the dark. And you're like, yeah, okay. But you can't, because there's one or two police officers operating in this city on a
Yeah.
Thursday night, they are
Yeah.
not going to get to you quickly. So
Absolutely
when
not.
women
No.
go, I'm not making it about women, but when anybody goes, oh, what I'd do is I'd stamp on their feet, kick them in the balls. And I'm like, if you've got to that point,
Yeah.
you fucking
You,
missed all the cues. You missed
you
all
know.
the cues. You know, I would walk I still walk my daughter when we're walking the dog in the park, like after school or after I get back from shift or something like that. I want her to experience those environments, because if she might find herself in one of them at some point in time, you know, I'm not encouraging her to go out into the dark on her own or anything like
Yeah.
that, but I would stop her in the park and I'd like go, right, you know, put her head in front of my head and just go, right, what else is in the park right now?
Yeah.
You know, and she'd be like, I think there's a couple of people over our left-hand shoulder on the other side. I said, right, is there anybody else? You know, is there anything else? You know, she'd go, I think there's it, and I think there's that. And I go, okay, if Daddy fell over now, what would you do? And you go, right, well, I'd ring 999. You know, I'd keep Kai with us. Kai's our German Shepherd.
Yeah.
And I always used to say to her, when she's got Kai with her, because she's 13 now, she might walk in by herself sometimes. I'd say, just remember 3 words. Just say, he's not friendly. Yeah. Because a dog, I think, is sometimes your greatest defense. Don't say my dog's an attack dog or anything like that. But people will look at him and go, is it worth it? Is it not?
Yeah.
And don't say, I'm going to let him on you. Just say, oh, sorry, he's not friendly. You know, he's not a social dog. And as much as people will go, oh, Pete, that's toxic masculinity or whatever, I'm like, you know what? The police is not going to, they're great. We work with police officers. They're fantastic, upstanding individuals, but they're set up to fail.
Yeah.
You know, they work long hours. They're underpaid. There's not enough of them. The public don't respect them the way they should do, I think. So just don't put yourself in a situation where you need to ring them.
Yeah. You know,
see the early signs.
Stay left of bang.
Yeah.
so don't if it goes bang, that's too late. So avoid that. Stay out of it. And it's in an ideal world, it would be perfectly safe and we can all do what we want. But unfortunately, it's not an idealistic world. It's the real world. It's quite nasty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I always say
avoid.
to her, like, what's your best way out? You know, never put people between you and a doorway.
Yeah.
Always make sure you can leave. And you start feeling the mood change in an environment long before the explosion happens.
You can feel, I think I've always been able to, you know, it's terrible to judge people on appearances, but I've always been able to walk into a bar. I've walked into a bar and go, he could be trouble. You know, that person, I need to watch that person. I'm not going to turn me back. I'm going to keep out their way. And I remember it
failed once. We were in a beer garden, me, my daughter and my partner at the time. And we go in this beer garden and we're in the back of it and something kicked off. And we were in the back of the beer garden. You had to go through the pub to get out of the pub. And this is why I talk about like basic life abilities as well. Because I always say like, you should be able to climb over a wall. You should be able to run a mile if you had to. You need to be able to swim. You know, and you need to, like you say, you need to be able to pull yourself over a wall. Because I just said to him, I said, right, we're just going to go over this wall and leave. You know, let's just leave. We're going to get out of the back of the pub. We're not going to try and fight our way through. No. Oh, my daddy's big and strong. I'll be fine. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'm not a trained fighter and I might get stabbed.
Absolutely.
So let's not bother. It's not about who's hardest and I used to do fucking boxing or no one cares. You know, I used to work on the doors, but I stopped working on the doors when people were carrying knives because I was like, this is not worth it. Nothing to do with how big or strong you think you are. The public is full of, there's crazy people all over the place. They're not all bad, but just don't put yourself in a situation. And I think a lot of that is you know, dragging us back out of that rabbit hole. UK ISAR is just also keeping your head on a swivel. Is this environment safe anymore? How big is this crowd? What is their behavior? You know, where are our vehicles? Where are our tools? Oh, don't worry, guys. We'll look after your stuff. Thanks. Really appreciate it. We're going to take it with us. We're going to make a polite reason to do so. You know, you're not going to go off with those people to have a look at this other site that they really want you to wreck you because their daughter's stuck in it. Because we might not see you again. We don't know who the fuck they are. There might be anybody. You know, I'm not saying they're liars, but those sorts of disciplines. Because in the UK fire service, we do that all the time. Someone would just pop next door to make sure that property is evacuated and you wouldn't mind them going by themselves or whatever. But it's a whole different mindset, isn't it?
It is completely. And there's and I think it's that assessment of the whole scene assessment, and
Mm.
especially when you're overseas, and especially if you're a large scale disaster, there's just so many things to take into consideration:
Hmm.
who to listen to, who not to listen to, how the mood's going. And again, I can think of examples when we've been dragged in to look at a site for the wrong reasons.
Mm.
Even on one site, we reckoned, we found out afterwards, we had someone crawling in through the back and shouting from underneath the rubble, and then coming out again. And then we went to search this site, and there's no sign, there's no nothing, and it was like we could hear them shouting an hour
Mm.
ago, and we were like, they're very healthy after 3 days,
Yeah,
and no one has heard them before, and there's been people up and down this road.
yeah.
And I mean, we went and looked, but it was like, well, we crawled into it, we put dogs over it, and they're not talking to us now. And
Mm.
then we all came out, and then we told them we can't hear them. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, we could hear someone shouting again.
Yeah.
And exactly the same. It's like, mate, yeah, we think we know what's going on. We know, and I'm not blaming them. I think there was a family member in there who was deceased, and they wanted them back.
Yes.
But it's sort of like we made an
Because that's a
assessment
different thing as well, isn't it? You've got to be
completely.
able to go, is this savable life?
Yeah,
Of course they want you to get
of course they do. But
their
I
deceased
think,
member out.
I
But you're not,
mean,
that's not what you're there for.
no, and I mean, that was Turkey
Yeah.
that happened. Um, and then to put it into perspective, there was shortly after that, we were called off pretty much exactly the same. Someone can hear people underneath, um, but it was the person who was telling us, and because we ended up going to a different site outside of our sector and rescuing a family. But it was
Mm-hmm.
the person who was telling us was a member of the local emergency management authority, and
Mm-hmm.
had
Yeah.
like said, I've got trusted people, independent people who have been in the cesty, and we can hear people under the rubble. And we've been all the way around it, and it was, and
That's the
so it
difference
was
between
like,
information and intelligence, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah, and
This is intelligence from a verified source. This is just
yeah,
information from this bloke who might
yeah,
be a smackhead. He might be the local drunk. He might want you to get in there because he's got his own possessions in there.
yeah,
It might genuinely be his daughter, but she's
yeah,
dead.
yeah, yeah,
She's been dead for
and
a couple of days.
it's
You know.
hard to say what leads you down that assessment and to make that
Mm,
decision. It's
mm,
very much intuitive at the time.
mm.
Um, I mean, it was Jim Chaston was the team leader in charge at the time,
Love
mate, and
Jim.
what an absolute
What a
legend.
solid leader.
I,
Yeah, I'd love to have him on
again,
the podcast
so
because he's a very good leader.
he is.
Yeah.
So again, I've surrounded myself with my heroes, and it's people that you
Yeah.
aspire to be. But that deployment was, the calls that were made were just so real world, so away from what we trained for. It was just so much. We are going to make this up as we go along here, and we're going to adapt.
I
Um,
was always a bit disappointed that Jim didn't want to climb the ranks.
yeah, but I
It's
think
almost like the
he's,
people that should do it the most are interested the least.
he's
Do you know what I
he's
mean?
he's where he belongs. He's excellent at what
I
he does,
agree. I know he is. I agree. But if the good
and
ones don't go for it,
yeah,
the sometimes the less good ones do. Do you
it's
know what
very
I mean? But
true.
you've got to
Yeah,
have a political appetite to climb that slippery pole.
you do.
And
Yeah, and
I'm going to go out on a limb and say almost every chief fire officer I've spoken to with an operational background will say the funnest time, the most engaging, the most rewarding time they had was a watch manager on the
yeah,
trucks.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you go, well, we all go for stuff for our different
Uh-huh.
reasons. Maybe it's financial. Sometimes we want to make a difference, blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
whatever. But you do see some banging ones like Jim, and there's
Yeah,
loads. Things like ISAR tend to attract really good operators as well. And you just go,
absolutely.
God
Yeah.
damn, you should go for it.
No,
But yeah, and
I want
that's
to
fine
do.
either
I
way.
want to do this. I'm happy doing
I
this.
know,
I'm
I
where I want
know,
to
I
be,
know, I
and we'll stick with that.
know. You changed roles quite a few times in your
Yeah,
your organization. You did some, on the trucks. Then how long were you in training for?
5 years.
Okay.
I went in, and I think that was the start of the technical rescue unit in our brigade.
Okay.
So I think they moved me in. There was funding to teach urban search and rescue to the teams.
Hmm.
And then I think there was a couple of people who had the foresight and started moving instructors into training school to teach the other skills, rope rescue and water
Is
rescue.
that a capacity thing as well, though? Because West Mids, where you worked
Yeah,
for is a bigger service
it
than
is
a
a
lot
bigger
of
service.
others.
Yeah, so
So it has the capability to have
it
a
has
full-time training
yeah.
staff on something like that skill
You
set.
know, we had a brigade training centre, and we had we had a lot of firefighters. We had rope rescue teams and water rescue teams in place
Hmm.
around the brigade, and I think they were looking at we're going to pull those all into the one technical rescue unit. We used the funding which came centrally from the government for urban search and rescue, but
Hmm.
then the brigade funded all the technical rescue side of things.
Mm.
So I mean, I
They've
think
always
it
been
was.
quite ahead of themselves for training, I think, West Mids.
I think
I did
I think
my
you.
TAC vent and my
Yeah,
fire behaviour there, I think.
yeah.
For BA, they've always been very, very good
Do you know
at
we
fire behaviour and BA. We've got
we had
Dave
yeah
coming on soon.
yeah oh yeah no yeah
Legend.
he's where's he now? He's retired, isn't he?
Yeah, he was at the college for
Yeah,
a long time,
he's at the
and then
college. Yeah,
he's retired and he's doing his own company. I think he's going to
yeah.
come and talk about a little bit about that as well. But yeah, again, just coming back to West Mids, they've always seems to have punched above their weight in
Do you know
terms of their
what?
training
I
their
think
firefighters.
the time that I spent at training school. I mean, I was recruited I was at West Farm on the rope
Hmm.
rescue teams. I was a firefighter.
Okay.
So I hadn't gone through any selection for promotion. Sorry. But I had someone come to me and say, "Mate, I was I love rope. I was really passionate about rope. I was quite switched on with rope. So do you want to come and help teach?" Um, and what you had at the brigade training centre, that's no longer there anymore, was you just had people that knew their subject. You know,
Hmm.
like they weren't there for rank. They weren't there for anything else other than they were passionate about that particular subject. We had the best people in the brigade for BA were teaching BA. The best
Hmm.
people at first aid were teaching first aid.
Hmm.
And I just remember the management at the brigade training centre had this whole idea. He was like the senior divisional officer in old ranks. I remember
Hmm.
him coming and saying, "I'm not going to tell you how to teach your subject. You tell me what you need to support to teach the subject." And
That's a rare good mindset for a leader.
and I think
I
it's,
don't know how to do your job, so I'm going to
yeah,
tell you how to do it, though. And I'm like,
it,
don't do that.
it worked. It worked
Yeah.
brilliantly. It
Yeah.
was, I mean, we weren't given free rein. You still
No.
had to do things,
Had
they'd
to be
still make
risk
sure that,
assessed and all that jazz. Yeah.
yeah. But, you had people who were, leading their subject in charge
Mm.
and saying how it goes. And I know this was a long time ago and lots of things changed, but it functioned really well. It worked really well.
Has or how has firefighting training from recruit to how long was your training when you first joined?
Oh, it was 17 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it was like joining the military. It
Hmm.
was you just beasted.
Hmm.
Um, and you learn. I learned resilience by being. It'd be bullying nowadays.
Definitely. Yep.
Absolutely. But I just learned resilience. I learned to go, well, that's the way it is.
So argue both sides of it for me, because
Yeah,
there's a few threads I want you to pull on here. One is the expanding role of the firefighter
yeah,
and how the complexity of the different specialisms that we ask people to undertake. However, our initial training courses seem to have shrunk to as little
mm,
as 8 weeks in some places.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, and also that element of resiliency, personal
yeah,
discipline, work ethic,
yeah.
bonding together through difficult experiences. How do we balance that against some instructors were bullies,
There were,
some were ego
yeah,
maniacs,
there were, yeah,
um, but there's somewhere in between that pendulum swinging that
yeah.
we may have swung a bit too far in the woke world, for my personal opinion,
I
in some places.
very much believe that. I think and again, running selections. I wasn't a bully. I don't bully people. I hate that. I hate bullies.
Mm-hmm. I was bullied as a kid. It's fucking horrible.
And I was. And but in all honesty, I can cope with them. They don't bother me. I'm sort of. I don't get really upset by them either. I'm sort of like I can. If someone's
but maybe that's a gift from the way you were raised.
Maybe
not everybody has that.
No,
and some people will cripple underneath that. Unnecessary behaviour. And
I think it's also going through training school. I look back at training school and I absolutely loved it as well. Even though we were getting beasted and we were on parade and nothing was good enough. There was still an element of us bonding. The recruits bonded together against it and looked after each other. And there was always, I think I just had that. I have this attitude with people generally. If someone's offered me, the first thing I think is, what have I done? What have I done to could I have avoided that? Could I have stayed left of bang? Could I have avoided him doing that? Could I have avoided them from? Could I have kept them happy? Could I have not upset them? Was I off with them? I think when I examine that, and if I can look at it and say, well, no, there's nothing I could have done, then maybe that person's having a bad day. Maybe it's nothing to do with me. It's to do with them. Maybe it's a problem that they're having. If it's not that, maybe they're just a twat and I'll just ignore them. I don't care what they think.
There's a few arseholes everywhere.
I accept that, and they are, and I'll just fair enough. I'm going to go over there now. I don't care about your opinion or what you think of me. I'm not going to get upset about it. You jog on.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, live with intention, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.